Part 64. Adorable Baby, The Miracle Doctor is So Awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 631. Shen Yizi motioned to Shen Xing, little Xing, quickly take out the banknote and show it to mother. Shen Xing hurriedly covered her mouth, keep your voice down, what if you attract a thief? He put his head out and looked around. When he saw no one, he closed the door tightly again and took out things from his arms with excitement on his face. Mom, Zizi and I went to sweep the street, and we picked up these. A few copper coins, a silver hairpin, a pearl flower, and then the silver note. Shen couldn't help but be surprised. How can you harvest, ahem, so much? Shen Yizi said proudly, most of this is due to me. That's right, Zizi's eyesight is very good, and he can spot it accurately. Shen Xing touched Shen Yizi's head. Mom, take a look, is this banknote real? Shen picked it up and looked at it. It's true. Shen Xing was so happy that he stood up, jumped twice, and then lowered his voice and said, Mom, with this money, you don't have to worry about paying for medicine in the next month. Shen was about to say something, but she couldn't help coughing. She hurriedly waved her hands to Shen Yizi and turned away at the same time, fearing that she would spread her illness to them. Shen Yizi couldn't help but feel uncomfortable when he saw her shrinking into a ball due to coughing. However, now that the system is in place, once the mall is opened, you should be able to buy medicine that can cure Shen, right? With this thought, Shen Yizi slept soundly that night. Before dawn the next day, Shen Xing quietly got up, boiled the medicine, and cooked a pot of porridge, put it on the stove to warm, then went out and hurried to the east city. Shen Yizi was awakened by the sunshine. The walls of the house are not tight at all, and sunlight leaks in through the gaps, but it does bring light to the room. Shen Yizi got up by himself, put on his clothes, and tidied up the house. Although the living conditions are very simple now, we should at least keep them clean and tidy. After eating a mediocre breakfast and doing what little housework he could, Shen Yizi had nothing to do. Just as he was about to turn on the system, Zuer, a girl from her neighbor who played well with her, came to her with a basket. Zizi, let's dig up the earth dragon. Dalong is an earthworm, a kind of medicinal material. When dried, it can be sold to drug stores for a little money. In the past, the original body often followed the little sisters to harm the earthworms around them. Shen Yizi glanced at Mrs. Shen, who smiled gently at her. Go. Shen Yizi stepped on the basket, took his small shovel and went out. The two came to a woodland, and Zuer selected a place with lush vegetation and started digging. As soon as the shovel was shoveled down, the traces of earthworms in the soil were revealed. Zuer was not afraid and directly pulled out a fat earthworm and threw it into the jar. Shen Yizi looked at it with goosebumps all over his body for no reason, and looked at Zuer with eyes full of admiration. This little girl is very promising. She can catch earthworms with her bare hands and her face is as steady as an old dog. She cannot do that, for she is indifferent to all reptiles. While little girl Zuer was working hard, Shen Yizi was wandering around, using a map to check the whole area. Suddenly, she stopped, and then she looked furtively back and forth, and when she saw that no one was paying attention to her, she squatted down and swung the shovel hard. After digging for a long time, the shovel hit a hard object. Zizi, how much have you dug? Zuer came over and looked into her jar. Shen Yizi's heart skipped a beat when his hand touched the hard object and he quickly put it into the storage compartment. Not here, I have to find another place. Little girl Zuer told her very experiencedly, Zizi, you have to find a place with a lot of grass. There are more earthworms under the grass. Oh, I'll try again. Zizi, go back quickly, Boss Jian is coming to trouble your family, a little boy ran over. Boss Jian? Shen Yizi's heart skipped a beat and he didn't even want the basket, so he ran home. The original owner's impression of Mr. Chien was that he was fat, greasy, and smelled of smoke. The little girl hated him. Now that only Mr. Shen is seriously ill at home, Shen Yizi feels worried. But when she ran home, she saw that Boss Jian and the younger brothers behind him had not entered the house. Instead, they all stood outside, kicking and knocking over some of the pots and jars placed in front of the door. She understood after a moment's thought that these people were probably afraid of being infected by Shen. "What are you doing here?" Shen Yizi walked over and blocked the door. "You little girl. If you dare to talk to our boss like this, you will die, right?" Zhang Tita cursed and almost poked Shen Yizi's face with his finger. Boss Jian brushed away Zhang Tita's hand, handed over a piece of maltose, and said with a grin, "Don't be afraid, if you know, uncle is here and he won't dare to do anything to you. Come, eat some candy, it's so sweet." At this time, the candy was basically not wrapped in candy wrappers, and Boss Jian took it out of his trouser pocket and handed it to her directly with his hand, so you can imagine how much dirt was stained on the candy. The maltose that was supposed to be light yellow turned out to be completely black at the moment. Shen Yizi felt a little nauseous just looking at such candy, not to mention eating it. "I will not eat." The smile on Boss Jian's face suddenly disappeared. Originally, he planned to use a candy to coax the little girl and let her take out the harvest from Shen Xing's street sweeping last night, but the little girl looked disgusted. She was just a poor girl in patches, but she actually started to pick up Joe with him. "Do you really think you are the charming young lady from one of those wealthy families?" Boss Jian directly grabbed Shen Yizi's collar and lifted her up. "Little girl, if you are sensible, just listen to me, otherwise dash." He walked to a smelly ditch and said, "I'll throw you in." They are also ditches. The ditches in Nanjing are filled with rouge and gouache, but the ditches here are full of filth. There is even human excrement in them, and the stench is overwhelming. Shen Yizi would stay far away when walking. If he was thrown in. "Can't think about it, my stomach churns when I think about it." Boss Jian was very satisfied when he saw that she was frightened. He came closer and said, "How are you? Are you scared?" When he spoke, he showed his big yellow teeth and his strong, smoky breath hit his face. Shen Yizi really couldn't bear it now. He opened his mouth and said "Wow," and vomited out all the bowl of porridge he had eaten in the morning. Boss Jian's face twitched twice, and he threw her to the ground. "Smelly girl. I think you are looking for death. Kick over." Don't Shen rushed over and protected Shen Yizi under her body. Because she was afraid of infecting her two children, Mrs. Shen usually never got close to them, but now she didn't care so much. Boss Jian's feet suddenly turned around and backed away far away, as if Mr. Shen was some kind of plague. However, Shen's coming out made it easier for him to go in and search. "Titu, go in and search carefully. Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome." Author, 955. Chapter 632. Dongcheng, Penglai Pavilion. Shen Xing walked briskly to the second floor and reported to a fat man sitting on the south side, "Mr. Liu, I have already sent the letter to Huax building and handed it to Xiaoting next to Miss Rude." Lu Hao's big mung bean eyes shone with light, and his movements of biting the pig's trotters slowed down. "How is it? What did Miss Rude say?" "Well, I gave the letter to Sister Xiaoting and came back." Lu Hao threw the pig's trotter in his hand and hit Shen Xing on the head. "You brat, what are you doing? I told you to hand the letter to Miss Rude in person, how dare you go against it? Are you tired of living, ah?" His fat, oily hands poked at Shen Xing's chest. Shen Xing's huge body was pushed backwards by him. He lowered his head and said, "Mr. Liu, Sister Xiaoting said that Miss Rude hasn't gotten up yet." I. What are you doing? You're making excuses for me, the reward is gone, take this plate of pig's trotters and get lost." Lu Hao waved his hand. There were 2 pig's trotters left on the plate, which looked oily and shiny. This was undoubtedly a huge temptation for Shen Xing, who had not eaten meat for several months. If you take these two pig trotters back, my mother and sister can both have a good meal. He lowered his head to say thanks and wanted to wrap up the pig's trotters on the plate. Lu Hao suddenly smiled maliciously and knocked the pig's trotters and the plate to the ground with a wave of his hand. The oily pig's trotters rolled on the ground and were immediately covered with a layer of dust. Shen Xing clenched his fist and said, "It's okay. I can still eat after washing." Bend down to pick it up. However, a big foot stepped on it first and crushed it hard. Boom, a piece of white silver was thrown on the table. Lu Hao looked at Shen Xing with interest. "If you can eat this pig's trotter with the skin and bones, this piece of silver will be yours." He wanted to see what this would do. Shen Xing stared at the ingot of silver, kept bending down, and did not move for a long time. Lu Hao got impatient and slapped him. "Eat. Why are you still waiting for me to invite you?" Shen Xing clenched his fists tightly and gritted his teeth. Finally, he slowly picked up the pig's trotters. Lu Hao smiled proudly and contemptuously. He knew that these cheap leathers would not let go of the money. Unexpectedly, the next moment, Shen Xing suddenly stuffed the piece of pig's trotter into his mouth, turned around and ran away. Lu Hao rolled his eyes because of the pig's trotters. He finally vomited out. He slammed the table and shouted at his two followers, "What the are you waiting for? Chase after me." The two followers hurriedly caught up with him. Shen Xing ran to the door, but happened to bump into Gu Switting and his group who came in. Pei Fei said, "Hey, aren't you the boy last night?" After such a blockage, the two followers caught up with him, grabbed Shen Xing tightly, twisted his arms, and forced him to kneel on the ground. Lu Hao walked over panting with heavy steps, and kicked Shen Xing right in the heart. "You bastard, you run away from me again. How dare you do anything dirty to me? I won't kill you until now, Lu." Gu Switting frowned. "Lu San, why did he offend you?" Lu San is domineering because of the power of the eldest prince. He usually likes to bully the common people. This is not the first time he has encountered him. In the past, he didn't bother to care, but the boy had a chance encounter with him last night. His sister helped him pick up the jade pendant, so he couldn't stand by and watch. Lu Hao then discovered Gu Switting and his entourage, and couldn't help but restrain his momentum. Although the Lu family has an eldest prince, it is still far inferior to that of Wang and Pei, a truly aristocratic family with a profound background. Normally, Gu Switting and his group didn't even bother to play with him. Lu Hao has been unhappy with them for a long time, but when they faced each other, he didn't have the guts to act recklessly. Hunted softly, "Guju, don't you always like to meddle in such nosy things? The sun is rising in the west today." Pei Fei spread his fan and said, "Lu San, you are very arrogant. We just have to deal with this matter today. Lu Haheng is good, but compared with Pei Fei, he is far behind. Pei Fei is a person who dares to laugh and curse in front of the emperor. How can he be afraid of Lu Hao? You two, let this man go." He pointed at the two followers. The two followers looked at Lu Hao and saw that he was silent. They knew that he had acquiesced and did not dare to confront the Pei family master. Shen Xing was relieved, stood up, and cast a grateful look at Gu Switting and Pei Fei. The shopkeeper came up to greet him. "Oh, Mr. Gu and Mr. Pei are here, please come and invite me. Today, the master chef has made a new dish called TNT duck feet. Do you two want to try it?" This group of young men blocking the entrance of their hotel, aren't they delaying their business? He couldn't say anything, so he could only invite them in nicely. Gu Switting motioned for Shen Xing to follow, and the group of people were led by the shopkeeper to the private room facing the street on the third floor. Lu Hao stood there for a while with a gloomy expression. Finally, unwilling to give in, Lu Hao followed him. "Guju, Pei Shi, I advise you to leave this matter alone. This scumbag is so bold that he dared to stuff a pig's trotters covered with dust on the ground into my mouth. I'm not done with him today. Who would have thought that Pei Fei was happy as soon as he heard this and patted Shen Xing on the shoulder. Oh, boy, you did a good job. I have never done anything like this. He glanced at Lu Hao's pig-headed face, and couldn't help but laugh when he thought of that scene. Lu Hao's face turned extremely ugly for a moment. Gu Swiding asked Shen Xing directly, "What's going on? Tell us." He didn't believe that this kid would stuff pig's trotters into Lu Hao's mouth for no reason. Shen Xing explained the matter again. Pei Fei knocked the handle of the fan into the palm of his hand. "I say, Lu San, this is your fault. You asked people to run errands for you without even paying a copper coin for your hard work. You also let people eat your leftovers. It's not good to eat leftovers, that's all. You still want to step on me. You Lu family are really good at mistreating people. I'll have to talk about it in front of my uncle someday." Pei Fei's aunt is now the queen in charge of the harem, and his uncle is naturally the current emperor. Lu Hao heard that Pei Fei actually wanted to sue him in front of the emperor, which was great. My heart became weak first. But he still had a stern look on his face and frowned. This kid ruined what I told him to do. It's fine that I didn't beat him up. But he still wants to pay for hard work? How can there be such a good thing? Such a despicable idiot like him. What's wrong with eating my leftovers? Normally he wouldn't even be able to eat meat, so I'm kindly asking him to eat meat. With that said, he felt that he had done nothing wrong at all, and he felt confident. As for stepping on that pig's trotter, wasn't it careless? What if he didn't eat it? What a shame, this dared to put a pig's trotter into my mouth. He gets angry when he talks about this. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 633. Pei Fei shook his head. Tisk, tisk, today I have seen what it means to confuse right and wrong. Lu San, with your eloquence, it would be a pity not to become a litigator. Shaking his head in a mocking manner. Lu Hao's face suddenly turned as black as the bottom of a pot. In the eyes of ordinary people, being a litigator is a lowly job, let alone a nobleman like Lu Hao who has a higher vision. Pei Fei's words were a deep insult to him. Guju, Pei Shi, do you have to go against me today and protect this kid? Lu Hao pointed at the two of them angrily. Gu Swiding's phoenix eyes opened slightly and she glanced at him lightly. Lu Hao subconsciously retracted his hand, but he felt even more angry in his heart. Leave him the money for running errands. You can leave now, don't stay here and disturb us while we eat. Gu Swiding's arrogance is not as empty as Lu Hao's, and can be broken by a poke, nor is it as exposed as Pei Fei's, but is hidden deep in his bones. He was too lazy to argue with Lu Hao and just settled the matter with one sentence. After saying that, he lazily leaned on the couch and waited for the food to be served. Lu Hao was so angry that his face turned red and his neck became thick, but he could do nothing to him. In front of the Gu family, even the Pei family has to step back, let alone the Lu family. As the leader of the younger generation of the Gu family, Gu Swiding has such confidence. Lu Hao held it in for a long time and said harshly to Shen Xing, "You bastard, just wait for me. Hands off a piece of silver and leaves." When he turned around to go out, he almost bumped into the waiter who was serving the food. He immediately vented all his anger on the waiter. "You bastard, you don't have eyes." However, due to Gu Swiding and Pei Fei inside, they didn't dare to do anything to the guy. Normally, the big-eared guy would have been slapped by him long ago. Pei Fei picked up the silver and handed it to Shen Xing. "Okay, go back. Next time you see that guy, just avoid it. If he dares to cause trouble for you again, just come to me." "Thank you, sir." Shen Xing bowed to him repeatedly and bowed deeply to Gu Swiding. Before leaving the house, Gu Swiding stopped him and said, "Brother, pack up this plate of braised chicken legs." Then he motioned to the waiter to hand it to Shen Xing. Shen Xing held the chicken legs wrapped in oil paper. They were hot and the aroma was revealed. He couldn't stop laughing when he thought of his mother and sister's surprise when they saw the chicken legs. Seeing him leave happily, Pei Fei smiled and shook his head, sat down in front of Gu Swiding, and looked at him as if he had never known him before. "Guju, this is not like your usual self. When have you ever been so enthusiastic? Tell me, are you planning something else? Fat but not greasy, juicy and delicious, not bad." A look of satisfaction appeared on his face. These children of aristocratic families never tire of fine food and fine food. What kind of delicacies from mountains and seas have they never tasted? It is not easy to get their approval. When the waiter saw this, he was overjoyed and introduced with a bit of pride, "Master Wang, Master Pei, this ladder of duck feet was made by our master after more than half a year of thinking. The ingredients used are not unusual. It's duck feet, ham, and spring bamboo shoots. What matters is the heat. You two don't know that it takes 2 days to make a duck paw with a ladder to heaven. First, you have to soak the duck paw in water for a day. When the duck paw is soaked soft, you can tear off the lines on the palm. Then use good rice wine to continue soaking until the duck feet are swollen and swollen like a baby's fingers, then remove the main bones and tendons inside. Only then can the duck feet be used. This first step is completed. Next, we have to cut the fat and thin ham into half-thick slices, add 1 piece of ham to 1 duck foot, cut the spring bamboo shoots into slices, apply honey, and tie them together with kelp silk. Steam it over a slow fire until it is ready." While listening to the waiter's introduction, Pei Fei moved his chopsticks and nodded repeatedly. "Well, no wonder this duck feet tastes like the oil and honey of ham, and the freshness of bamboo shoots. Yes, it's really good. But then again, if you tell me all the steps of cooking, aren't you afraid that others will learn from you?" The waiter smiled and said, "How can you speak so carefully in front of others? As for you two, if you can learn it, it will be an honor for us at Penglay Pavilion. The master hopes that you two can help spread the word." Pei Fei was so relieved by the rainbow fart that he laughed loudly. "Don't worry, I will help him promote it well. Everyone should share the delicious food." The guy completed the assigned task and was overjoyed. But Shen Xing, who left Penglay Pavilion, hurried home all the way and would touch his chest after walking for a while. The package of braised chicken drumsticks was placed in his arms, and the warm warmth came from it, making his whole heart bubble with joy. Unexpectedly, as soon as I walked to the alley, I saw my good friend Mesa looking anxiously. Hurrying over, he asked, "What's wrong, Mesa?" "Oh, you're back. Boss Jian is here with Zhang Titu, and your house has been turned upside down by them." As soon as Shen Xing heard this, Fi Yang's mood suddenly darkened and he ran home with all his strength. Asterisk. Zhang Titu followed Boss Jian's instructions and broke into the house to search. His actions were rude and arrogant. There was only a ping 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 pong ping sound, and in the blink of an eye, the house was in a mess. However, he didn't find anything valuable. "What a bad luck. How is it, did you find it?" Boss Jian asked. Zhang Tita shook his head, "Just some junk." "Damn girl, where is the golden hairpin you picked up last night?" he shouted to Shen Yazi from a distance. When the onlookers heard the word golden hairpin, their eyes lit up, like hungry wolves seeing fat meat. Shen Yazi stared at Zhang Tita coldly without saying anything, anger boiling in his heart. At this moment, she was held tightly in Shen's arms. She could feel that Shen was trying his best to hold back his cough, but a muffled cough still escaped from her throat. She just bit her lip desperately to prevent herself from coughing out. Facing such a villain for the first time, Shen Yazi was angry but powerless. I vowed in my heart that I must upgrade the system as soon as possible. When the mall opens, none of these people will be able to escape. You girl, you still dare to stare at me, believe it or not, I'll beat you to death. Jiang Tita picked up a wooden stick and raised it high, as if to knock it down. What Shen Xing saw when he came back was this scene. His anger instantly rushed to Tianling Gai. He roared angrily, rushed over with red eyes, and pushed Jiang Tita far away like a calf. Jiang Tita couldn't help but retreat, his footing became unstable and he fell onto his butt. Shen Xing swung his iron fist and hit him hard. With one punch, Jiang Tita's eyes turned blue, tears burst from the pain, and he howled miserably. By the time Boss Jian and others came to their senses and came forward to help, Jiang Tita had been beaten into a dead dog and was lying on the ground dying, with more air coming out and less air coming in. Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 634. Shen Yizi thought he had beaten the person to death, and was startled. He ran over and breathed a sigh of relief when he found that the person was not dead yet. To be honest, she didn't care whether Jiang Tita died or not, but in front of everyone, if Shen Xing beat him to death, his life would be ruined. It is really not worth spending your whole life for a rotten person like Jiang Tita. Shen Xing stood up and stared at Boss Jian and others like a wolf. Even though Boss Jian had experienced a lot, he was still frightened by his eyes. This kid is less than 10 years old. It is a lawless time and he has strange powers. It is best not to provoke him, otherwise he will be beaten to death one day and he will have no way to deal with it. Thinking like this, Boss Jian became timid, but he was the boss, and with so many people watching, he couldn't bow his head easily. Otherwise, where would you put your face? Little. Boss Jian gathered a group of local ruffians and collected protection fees all over Nanjing. In fact, they were robbing homes and houses. However, most people did not want to provoke them, so they spent money to eliminate troubles. It's just that the Shen family has never had any friends. First of all, I was poor, and there were not many tung seeds in my family. How could I still have money to hand over? Secondly, although Shen Xing is young, he has strange strength and fights fiercely. Boss Jian came to the house for the first time and all the younger brothers he brought were beaten to the ground. However, the most important reason is that Mr. Shen is suffering from tuberculosis. Everyone knows that this disease is contagious. It is too late to hide, so how can we get together? So Boss Jian came once and never came again. He was still young and had decades to live. If he got infected, he would die unjustly. But this time, he was moved by the golden hairpin in Jiang Tita's mouth. Shen Xing raised his neck. What gold hairpin? I've never seen it before. At any rate, you should never admit it. Jiang Tita wanted to speak out, but was silenced by Shen Xing's stern look. Boss Jian saw the scene in his eyes, had a few thoughts in his mind, and said with a smile, "It seems that this kid Tito is trying to amuse me." He stepped forward and patted Shen Xing on the shoulder. "I frightened your mother and Zizi today. I apologize to you. Don't bear any grudge against me." Shen Xing avoided his hand and remained silent. Boss Jian didn't care. He said hello and left with the people. It wasn't until the group of people disappeared that Shen Xing's tense shoulders relaxed, and he hurriedly asked Shen and Shen Yizi, "Mom, Zizi, are you okay?" As soon as Shen shook her head, she couldn't help coughing. Shen Xing hurriedly stepped forward and patted her back. Shen pushed him away and said, "No, it's okay." Shen Xing looked at her pale and thin face and felt worried. The neighbor's Aunt Chen's family was kind-hearted. When she saw that their house was in a mess, she took the initiative to help clean it up. "Sister, please don't go in, I'll make you sick if you get over it, cough cough cough." At this time, there was a shout from the Chen family, "You stinky bitches, where did you go? Why don't you come back and cook for me?" Sister-in-law Chen's sister-in-law smiled awkwardly and went back with Zuer and Meza. Mom, Zhizi, you can sit outside and bask in the sun for a while, and I'll tidy up the house right away. Shen Xing moved over two small horses. Shen Yizi helped Mr. Shen sit down and held one of her bony hands in his. Shen said gently, don't be afraid, you know, my mother will always be with you. Shen Yizi lay down on her lap, facing the sun. Ms. Shen gently stroked her daughter's soft hair and saw that her long and curled eyelashes were dyed gold, and her eyes suddenly filled with moisture. Zhizi was supposed to live a life of fine clothing and fine food. Just when Shen Yizi was falling asleep, a tall figure appeared in her sight. It was a man about 30 years old, with a fair and handsome face, and he was wearing a grey-blue straitjacket. He was spotless. He looked like he was living a well-to-do life, and he was really out of tune with the grey and dirty Nanjing district. Xinjiang. The man walked straight towards the mother and son. Shen Yizi then noticed that he was holding a medicine box in his hand. Oh, she knows, this is Dr. Su who has been treating Shen for free. Zhizi, let's see what uncle brought you. Su Yu squatted down in front of Shen Yizi, spread out his white palms, and there was a paper bag lying on it. He opened it layer by layer, and there were neatly arranged rows of cloud cakes inside. Snow white, dotted with tiny sesame seeds. Suyakiyu took a piece and fed it to her. Shen Yizi was too embarrassed to let him feed him, so he hurriedly picked it up himself. Shen said angrily, this kid doesn't know how to thank Uncle Su. Shen Yizi was slightly embarrassed and raised a big smile at Suyakiyu, thank you, Uncle Su. Suyakiyu touched her head and said, why are you being polite to me? His eyes were looking at Shen. Shen covered her mouth and coughed, her shoulders shaking. Suyakiyu hurriedly took her hand to diagnose her pulse, frowning her trim eyebrows slightly, and Shen Yizi's heart suddenly lifted, Uncle Su, is my mother's illness getting worse? He took back his hand and said warmly, no, your mother's illness has gotten better. She will be cured after taking some medicine for a while. Shen Yizi is not a real 4-year-old girl. How could she not know that he was just saying words of comfort? Shen Xing in the room heard the movement and hurriedly came out to greet him, Uncle Su. He seemed very happy for Sujakiyu's arrival. Xiao Xing has grown taller again. Su Yu looked him over, noticed the palm prints on his face, and his eyes darkened, but in order not to worry Mr. Shen, he did not ask him face to face. Today, a nobleman gave me a whole plate of braised chicken legs. I'm going to heat them up. Uncle Su can stay and eat, Shen Xing said enthusiastically. Suyakiyu responded with a smile. Shen Xing took out the stove and lit a fire to make rice. He left the rice washing job to Shen Yizi, went to his neighbor's house and bought 2 eggs, and then went to the back of the house to pick a handful of leeks. Shen Xing was already cooking, and he quickly prepared 2 dishes, 1 scrambled egg with chives and 1 steamed egg. As for the braised chicken drumsticks he brought back, he could heat them up and serve them. 3 dishes, it can be said to be a rare sumptuous meal. Ms. Shen refused to serve, you cough and eat first, don't worry about me. A few people knew her temper and knew that even if she reluctantly served the table, she probably wouldn't be able to move her chopsticks, so they didn't force her. Shen Xing picked up some vegetables alone and handed the bowl to Shen, Mom, it will get cold if you eat it later. Shen took it and suppressed the urge to cough, but her face turned red. Eat quickly, she greeted. Shen Yizi and the 3 of them moved their chopsticks. Shen Xing placed the egg custard in front of Shen Yizi, eat more, Zhiji. He gave her another big chicken drumstick. Little Xing Xing, don't worry about me, I will do it myself. Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 635. Shen Yizi has been hungry for a long time. At this time, there is rice in his mouth, his cheeks are bulging, he speaks in a serious tone, and he looks even more cute and cute. Suyaki couldn't help but curled his lips. Shen Yizi gnawed hard at the chicken legs. Well, the meat is still delicious. By the way, Shen Xing said that the chicken legs were given to him by a nobleman. When she asked, Shen Xing said, Zizi, do you remember the two young masters we met last night? Yes, I remember. How could the god of wealth not remember? The chicken legs were given to me by Mr. Gu. By the way, I also earned 5 taels of silver today. Shen Xing took out the ingot of silver. He briefly talked about what happened in Penglay Pavilion. Of course, he ignored the fact that he was pushed to the ground and slapped. Haha, that fatty Lu wanted to teach me a lesson, but in front of Mr. Gu and Mr. Gu, he didn't even dare to say anything and left in disgrace. Shen Yizi looked at the faint slap marks on his face, and then saw him smiling like a fool, and felt panicked. Lu Hao is a man who will retaliate for his anger. Xiao Xing, you have to be careful in the future, Suyu warned. Well, don't worry, Uncle Su, I run very fast, he will definitely not be able to catch me next time. After finishing the meal, Shen Xing rushed to clear the table, put the rice bowls and plates into the wooden basin, and pulled Shen Yizi out of the door. Let's go to the river with my brother to wash the dishes. There is a small river in Nanjing, and nearby people come here to get water, wash dishes, and vegetables. Arrived at the river, Shen Xing told Shen Yizi not to go near the water, and quickly washed the dishes himself. Shen Yizi has now developed the habit of exploring wherever he goes. She walked back and forth by the river, but this time she gained nothing. Same, how can treasures be found everywhere? I wonder what's in the clay pot she put into the storage compartment this morning? It is not convenient for her to check now. It would be nice if I could have a separate room of my own. When going back, Shen Yizi saw a dandelion on the side of the road and immediately ran over to pick it. Give flowers to Ms. Shen, she will definitely be happy. When the brother and sister arrived home, Sujaki Yu was about to leave. Shen Yizi suddenly had an idea. After giving the flowers to Ms. Shen, he saw a surprised smile on her face, and then she ran over and held Suyuyu's hand. Uncle Su, I'll give it to you. Little girl, do you have anything to tell your uncle? Suyuyu asked when he walked into the alley. Shen Yizi was surprised. Did she show it so obviously? Suyaki couldn't help laughing when he saw her like this, and scratched her little nose. Tell me, what do you want to whisper to uncle? Uncle Su, can you do me a favor? You say. I want to move my mother and Xiao Xing away from here. Can you help us find a rental house? It doesn't need to be too big, but it should have at least 3 rooms. It's best to have a detached house. Of course, the rent is the best. It could be cheaper. Shen Yizi carefully listed his requirements for a new house. Suyaki felt funny at first, but then sighed. This little girl is only 4 years old, but she is already forced to consider these things. He stopped and bent down in front of Shen Yizi. Zizi, my uncle has actually thought about helping you move out of here, but your mother has never agreed. If you can help me convince your mother, there will be no problem with this matter. It turns out that he had wanted to help them for a long time, but why didn't Mr. Shen agree? Are you afraid that you owe too many favors? Shen Yizi is not afraid anyway. Now that she has the system in hand, her future is obviously bright. When the time comes, she will just repay those who have been kind to her. After returning home, Shen Yizi saw Shen Xing counting money with his back to the door. Hearing the noise, he immediately put a pile on the table into a cloth bag and stuffed it into his arms. When he turned around and saw it was her, he relaxed again, took out the cloth bag again, and said proudly, I keep the gold hairpin close to my body, and Zhang Titu still wants to search it away. What a dream! But today he made a mess in our house, sooner or later I want to settle accounts with him, huh? Shen Yizi sat down near the door, paying attention to the movement outside and giving him a break. Little Xing, how much money does our family have now? Well, let me count, 10 taels plus 5 taels plus. There were dozens of copper plates in the pile, but every time he counted to 20, his claws became numb and he scratched his head. Zhizi, come and help me count. One count. Shen Yizi walked over and pushed him away. I'll come. Soon she reported a number, 56 copper coins, so we now have a total of 15 taels and 56 wen coins, plus these gold hairpins and pearl flowers. It is estimated to be more than 20 taels. This is really a huge sum of money. At this moment, there was a noise outside the house. Shen Xing immediately opened the door and ran out. A figure flashed past and ran away quickly. He chased for a while, but was worried about his mother and sister at home, so he had to give up. In the room, Shen Yizi had already put away the cloth bag containing the money. Seeing Shen Xing come back with a solemn expression, Shen Yizi's heart skipped a beat. Little Xing, was there someone eavesdropping outside just now? Well, it's a pity that he ran away. Shen Yizi couldn't help but worry. In this slum area of Nanjing, not to mention 20 taels of silver, even one tael was enough to arouse others' greed. That person was most likely sent by Boss Jian. Thinking about what he said before leaving, thinking about it now, he probably was still unwilling to give in and wanted to take the gold hairpin away from them. Shen Yizi's mind was spinning, and he suddenly felt that this might be an opportunity. An opportunity to persuade Mr. Shen to leave here. Shen Yizi opened his eyes wide and looked scared. Little Xing, what should I do? What if those people come to bully us again while you are away? Mom, I'm afraid. Shen was heartbroken and wanted to comfort her, but all she could say was a series of coughs. The more coughing she got, the more speechless she became. Shen Xing hurriedly poured a glass of water over, supported Shen and fed her the water to drink. After finally calming down, Mrs. Shen looked at the two children in front of her and said, "Don't be afraid, we are leaving here now." The brother and sister immediately began to pack things quickly. In fact, there isn't much to pack, just some clothes and bedding. That's right, Zhizi, where did you hide the money? Shen Yizi smiled mysteriously and said, hidden in a place where no one can find it, don't worry. Shen Xing was also very ambitious, so he didn't ask any more questions after hearing what she said. After finishing cleaning up, Shen Xing carried Shen on his back with a big bundle tied in front of him, while Shen Yizi held a pony in his arms and led him by the hem of his clothes before going out. However, before walking out of the alley, he ran into Boss Jian and his group. Hey, where are these big and small bags going? Do you want my help? Humbling to help, Boss Jian blocked the entrance to the alley. Shen Xing said coldly, no need. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 636. Mr. Qian laughed and said, I'd better help a group of people. Seeing how hard you orphans and widowed mothers are working so hard, I can't bear it. Titu. Zhang Titu smiled sinisterly, walked over and grabbed the package from Shen Xing's chest. Shen suddenly broke out into an earth-shattering cough. Zhang Titu was so frightened that he immediately retracted his hand and took a few steps back. Lao Qian cursed, good for nothing. He grabbed Shen Yizi and said, Xiao Xing, uncle doesn't want to embarrass you. Just hand over the golden hairpin and I will let you go. Otherwise, you, mother and son, no one will be able to step out of here today. Shen Yizi kicked his legs hard. The feeling of being hung in the air was really uncomfortable. She wanted to hit Boss Jian on the head with the pony in her hand, but this hit made her angry for a moment, but she would suffer disaster later. Shen Xing gritted his teeth. The look in his eyes that was ready to pounce on him and bite off a piece of meat at any moment made Boss Jian feel frightened. They say don't bully young people into poverty. He looked at the two children of the Shen family a little different from the other children in Nanjing. If they became prosperous in the future, would they come to trouble him? Thinking of this, Boss Jian's eyes darkened. Since you have offended people to this extent, let's just offend them more severely. As for whether they will grow up in the future, how can they get prosperous if their brother's leg is broken and his sister is sold into a brothel? Having made up his mind, Boss Jian no longer talks to them. Shen Xing, hand over the package, otherwise your sister's little face will be ruined. He pinched Shen Yizi's face with his big hands. Ah! Get your dirty hands off! Shen Yizi roared in his heart and wished he could kick this man flat. This feeling of being a human being is really bad. If you dare to touch Zizi, I will drag you to death. Shen Xing untied the package and threw it away. That's right, Boss Jian motioned to Zhang Titu to check. The package was opened, and Zhang Titu stirred things up inside, deliberately causing damage. Shen Xing's eyes turned red. Shen gently stroked his head and comforted him silently. After searching for a while but not finding it, Zhang Titu slammed the medicine jar in his bag to the ground. Where's the gold hairpin? I've told you, what do you want me to bring out? Boss Jian glanced back and forth at the faces of the three Shen family members like a snake trusting a snake, and suddenly pinched Shen Yizi's neck. You won't cry until you see the coffin, right? Shen Xing, if you don't take it out, your sister will die. Jian, let go of Zizi. Shen Xing couldn't bear it anymore, put Shen down and rushed over. Hold him down, Boss Jian avoided and ordered to his men. This time, Boss Jian learned from the previous lesson and asked his men to bring weapons. Of course, except for kitchen knives and farm tools, private possession of iron weapons was not allowed, so all these people had in their hands were stones. Just a stick. But when it hits someone, it actually hurts. Although Shen Xing was fierce, he was using his bare hands and no one knew who hit him on the head from behind. Blood immediately flowed from his forehead, stars appeared in front of his eyes, and his body swayed. Xiao Xing, cough cough cough. Little stars dash. Boss Jian stepped forward and kicked Shen Xing until he fell to his knees. Hearing his knee hit the ground with a thud, Shen Yizi felt his heart was hit hard. You bastards! She picked up the small horse, rushed over and hit Mr. Jian hard. Boss Jian suffered a few pains and kicked her away. Shen Yizi suddenly felt that all his internal organs had shifted, and he was rolling on the ground in pain. Zizi, Shen Xing wanted to rush over, but was held down by Boss Jian's younger brother. 7 or 8 people can restrain him. Boss Jian couldn't help but feel frightened. He felt more and more that this kid was extraordinary. What if he was allowed to grow up? Take one of his legs off for me. Zhang Titu smiled ferociously, raised a wooden stick, and swung it towards Shen Xing's legs. Stop. Suyakiya felt uneasy after going back, so he turned back. Unexpectedly, he saw the scene when he walked into the alley. The silver needle shot out from his hand like electricity and pierced Zhang Titu's wrist. He screamed, holding his wrist in pain until he couldn't control himself, and a stream of yellow liquid flowed down his trousers. The wooden stick in his hand naturally fell to the ground. Sujakiyu did not stop, and continued to shoot out the silver needles in his hand. Like the goddess scattering flowers, it sank into the bodies of Boss Jian and the younger brothers. In an instant, they stood frozen on the spot, unable to move. Boss Jian was shocked. What did you do to us? You can immobilize them with just a silver needle. What a clever technique. Had he known that the Shen family's mother and son relied on such an expert, why would he bother them? However, it is too late for him to regret it now. Sujakiyu rushed over, helped Shen Xing and Shen Yizi up, and checked them. He felt slightly relieved. Fortunately, they suffered only superficial injuries, not serious injuries. Xiao Xing, can you still go? Able. Okay, come with me and brings Hizzy. Suyuyu picked up Mr. Shen and walked in front without even looking at Mr. Qian and others. Shen Xing and Shen Yazi couldn't do it. The brother and sister looked at each other, each picked up a wooden stick from the ground, and greeted Boss Qian and others fiercely. Suyuyu, who was walking in front, heard the noise, but did not look back. He just slowed down his pace so that they could catch up. Suyakiyu came in a carriage. He carefully put Shen into the carriage, then turned around to pick up the Shenxing brothers and sisters. Lao Zhang, go to Fule Lane in Qingpingli. Qingpingli is located in Dongcheng. The people living in this area are families with small assets. At least they have a worry-free life, and they don't have to worry about food and drink. Shen Yazi looked out the window and found that the pedestrians were neatly dressed, behaved calmly, and their mental outlook was completely different from that of the people in Nanjing. The streets on both sides are very clean, with no sewage or excrement everywhere. The carriage drove leisurely into a quiet alley. There was a ginkgo tree planted in the yard of the first house at the entrance of the alley. Its branches and leaves were like a big open green umbrella. Judging from the situation, it was probably not a few decades old. After a while, the carriage stopped in front of a yard. Suyakiyu went down first and took Shen Yazi down. Shen Xing jumped down neatly without letting him help him. Finally, Suyuyu was ready to take Shen down. This time, Shen did not give in, but stretched out her hand towards Shen Xing. Suyakiyu moved too fast before and she didn't react before he succeeded, but that's not the case now. Suyakiyu opened the courtyard door and invited a few people in. As soon as you enter, you will see a small courtyard. Although it is not big, it looks very refreshing. There is a well against the wall in the east, and an apricot tree in the west. It has light pink flowers in bloom now, and there are a few bushes beside the wall. Rose. Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 637. Go into the hall along the Bluestone Road. There are tables and chairs in the hall. A curtain hangs on the west side, and you can enter the kitchen. There is also a door on the north side leading to the back. After entering, there is a square patio with a circular pool in the center. There is a small and exquisite rockery in the pool. The water flows down from the rockery and submerges into the pool, repeating the cycle. This is obviously a place of living water, and I don't know where it leads. There are a few koi carp swimming calmly in the pond. There are two wing rooms on the east side, the main room on the north, and the cloister on the west, which leads directly to the main room. Under the stone steps of the corridor, there are several pots of flowers, such as narcissus, jasmine, and peony, which are full of spring. Beside the main room, there is a side room, and a separate toilet is built next to the side room. The thing that makes Shen Yi resentful most when he comes here is not that he can't eat meat, but that he doesn't have a separate toilet. Every time I need to go to the toilet, I have to go far away from home. As for the environment of the toilet, it's okay not to mention it. This yard is beyond Shen Yazi's imagination, it couldn't be better. Suyakiyu said, "This is an idle yard of my friend. You might as well live here. It can also add a bit of popularity to the house and prevent it from growing ashes. As for the rent, it's 500 cash a month. What do you think, friend? In fact, it's him. Such a good location, such an exquisite yard, and the monthly rent is only 500 yuan. This is definitely a rental at a discount." Seeing that no one was talking, Suyuyu thought the rent was too high and thought about it. "If you think it's too high, I can discuss it with my friend." Shen Yazi chuckled and said, "Uncle Su, we have money, don't be afraid that we can't pay the rent." Shen Xing's chest puffed up, "That's right." Shen Shi coughed twice, and Suyuyu said hurriedly, "Look, I just took you to look at the house, and I forgot that you are still injured. I will show you first, and I will talk about other things later." There is no rush. He had just checked his pulse in a hurry before, but now he had to take a closer look, otherwise he would not be at ease. Suyakiyu felt the pulses of Shen Xing and Shen Yazi again and prescribed medicine. Go out of the alley and walk a few steps to the east. There is a medical center where you can get medicine. Just when I came to the new place, I have bought rice noodles, and Shen did not leave Suyayu for meals. When Sujakiyu said goodbye, he said to Shen Xing, Xiao Xing, please help me see off your Uncle Su. Shen Yazi was kicked by Boss Jian before. The pain was excruciating, but Boss Jian still wanted to sell her for money, so he held back his strength. Now that the pain was over, she was bouncing around again. Happily ran into the house, looking here and touching there, just like a real 4-year-old girl. There was nothing she could do about it. This house suited her aesthetic so well, she was really excited. Seeing her cheerful look, Mrs. Shen couldn't help but smile. But there is a hidden worry in my heart. She had been avoiding it before. Although the risk was reduced, it had really wronged her 2 children, and it was not as safe as she thought. Xiao Xing and Zizi were almost killed today. Although doing this now increases the risk of exposure, as long as you are careful, nothing will happen. After all, so many years have passed. After looking around, Shen Yazi quickly allocated several rooms. Mom, you live in the main room, little Xing Xing lives in the east wing near the outer courtyard, and I live in the room next to the main room. Okay. Okay. Shen's eyes were warm and soft. When Shen Xing came back, he was carrying a lot of things in his hands, including chicken, duck, fish, meat, vegetables, rice, and noodles. He was very strong, otherwise how could he carry them? Seeing this, Shen frowned slightly. Xiao Xing, where did these come from? Uncle Su gave it to me. He said that our 2 families will be neighbors from now on, and neighbors should help each other and maintain a good relationship. Sure enough, Shen expected this to be the case. It's just that the neighbor. Your Uncle Su also lives here. Yes, Uncle Su lives diagonally across from us. He is the first house at the entrance of the alley. There is a ginkgo tree planted in the yard. Shen Yazi secretly thought that this Uncle Su definitely liked her mother. In order to help them, he did not hesitate to rent his house to them cheaply in the name of a friend and settled down opposite them. It's really sincere. Of course, a child cannot interfere with the feelings between adults. Although she is happy to see the results, she will not rashly intervene and make her own decisions. Everything depends on Shen's wishes. She just needs to treat Sujakiyu as the benefactor of their family. Repay kindness if you are kind, there is nothing to worry about. Shen looked at the pile of things and sighed, that's all, you can take it to the kitchen. After coming out, Shen Xing carried a bucket to fetch water. Shen said, Xiao Xing, don't be busy now. You were injured earlier. Go grab some medicine and fry it first. It will be bad if the root cause of the disease is found. Just as he was talking, there was a knock on the courtyard door. They have just moved in. Who will come now? The courtyard door opened, and Suyakiyu stood outside holding a food box. Sure enough, there is no one else but him. You just moved here, so it's not convenient to start a meal, so I brought some cooked food over. As for the medicine, I'm already cooking it, and it will take a while. Let's eat first, and we can drink it after we finish the meal. Alas, it's really meticulous. Shen Yazi sighed in his heart. There is actually no shortage of anything here. The kitchen is full of firewood, so you can make a fire for cooking at any time. As Sujakiyu said this, he took out the food from the food box and placed it on the 8 immortals' table. Crystal elbow, steamed pork with vermicelli, tofu, and mushroom soup, vegetarian stir-fried pea shoots, plus a portion of soy sauce meat. The staple food is white rice, and a plate of carrot cake. The crystal elbow is clean and hairless, and the jelly is crystal clear. It looks so tender that it will melt in your mouth with just one sip. Every piece of sauced pork is rich in sauce, looks bright red like agate, and has a direct and overbearing aroma that penetrates right into one's nose. The carrot cake is also dotted with diced dried shrimps, bacon, and sausage, which is rich in ingredients. The dishes on this table are really rich. Shen Yizi and Shen Xing were drooling at the sight. Even Mrs. Shen couldn't help but feel dazed. In the past, these dishes were nothing to her, but now, she hasn't tasted them for a long time. Suyaki Yu smiled and said, "Don't just look at it, Xiao Xing, go to the kitchen to get the dishes and chopsticks." Shen Xing ran into the kitchen without hesitation, quickly took the dishes and chopsticks, washed them and put them on the table. Suyaki Yu filled a bowl of rice for himself and the other 3 members of the Shen family, and put a piece of steamed pork into Shen Yizi's bowl. This kind of meat is not sticky at all. It's pink and glutinous. Yizi will definitely like it. As soon as Shen Yizi tasted it, his taste buds were instantly conquered. The rice noodles were smooth and tender, with no impurities at all. The meat was rotten but not greasy. It melted after just a sip. It was so delicious that she wanted to cry. Compared with the steamed pork in front of me, the ones I have eaten before are simply dregs. Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 638. Suyuyu scooped a bowl of soup for Shen. First drink a bowl of soup to iron your stomach. The 2 vegetarian dishes in it were specially prepared for her. Seeing Shen Yizi and Shen Xing eating happily, Mrs. Shen's eyebrows widened and she was even more satisfied than eating it herself. Shen Xing devoured the food and couldn't stop. When the other 3 were full and put down their chopsticks, he simply poured the food on the plate directly into the bowl. He eats a lot, but before his family had no money, he was always only 3/3 full when he ate. His stomach was always hungry, but now he can finally eat freely. Hiccup, he burped contentedly. After dinner, everyone sat together and talked for a while. Suyuyu introduced them to the nearby situation, so that they would not be blinded when they first arrived. Then I thought that the medicine was almost ready, so I went home and brought the medicine box. 3 bowls of medicine, 1 for each mother and child, and no one missed anything. Shen Yizi looked at the dark concoction and felt bitter even before he drank it. "Uncle Su, do I want to drink it too?" "Of course, you were frightened before. Although you seem to be fine now, you may have nightmares at night. It's better to drink a bowl of tranquilizer to suppress the fright." This is all for her sake. How could Shen Yizi have the nerve to refuse? Pick up the bowl and drink in big gulps. Such a bitter medicine, she didn't want to drink it bit by bit slowly, it would be even more torturous. Putting down the bowl, Suyaki Yu handed over the plate with maltose. "Quickly take a piece of candy and squeeze it." Shen Xing took a piece without any courtesy. Suyaki Yu handed the plate to Shen and motioned for her to take a candy as well. Shen shook her head. "I'm used to taking medicine, so I don't need to eat sugar." "Isn't it bitter now that you're used to drinking it? Come on, open your mouth." Suyuyu directly took the candy and handed it to her mouth. This piece of dog food really came unexpectedly. Shen Yizi was afraid that Mr. Shen would be shy, so he lowered his head and did not stare at her. Shen Xing has no such nerve at all. Shen couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief and glanced at Suyaki Yu, but still took the candy and ate it. So sweet. At this point, the family has settled down here. At night, Shen Yizi took a fragrant hot bath and lay on the soft and warm bed, feeling very comfortable. When she took out the clay pot that she had put away before and opened it, her mood suddenly soared to the clouds. In the clay pot, there is a piece of jewels, gold and silver shining. It is filled with all kinds of exquisite and luxurious jewelry, and the bottom is covered with gold bars. At a rough count, there are more than a dozen. It's been made. Ha 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 ha. Shen Yizi laughed wildly in his heart. Zizi, go to bed early, I'll blow out the lamp. Shen pushed the door open and entered. Shen Yizi immediately put the pottery pot into the storage compartment, agreed, and lay down honestly. However, when Mrs. Shen left, she immediately got up again, pulled the quilt over her head, and took out the clay pot again. In the dark, she could still see the jewelry clearly, because there was a luminous pearl the size of a dove egg inside. She poured out all the jewels and spread them all over the bed. The feeling of being surrounded by jewelry is so good. Hey, what is this? She found a palm-sized square box among a pile of jewelry. When she opened it, she found a piece of cowhide drawing inside, which looked very old. There are some very abstract lines and shapes drawn on it. Could this be a treasure map? After looking at it for a while, she found that this treasure map was probably incomplete, but she didn't see anything interesting about it at all, so she simply put it aside. Then, Shen Yizi sold the gold bars to the system. One gold bar gained 1000 wealth points, and she immediately upgraded the system to level 2. The information on the panel changes to Host, Shen Yizi. Grade, 2, 960/1000. Wealth, 960. Storage compartment, *2 no items yet. Open function, primary map, with the host as the center, all objects in the sphere with a radius of 3 meters are invisible. Warm reminder, after reaching level 3, you can open the system mall. Continue to sell gold bars and upgrade. Panel information is updated in real time. Host, Shen Yizi. Level, 3, 960/10,000. Wealth, 960. Storage compartment, *3 no items yet. Open functions, primary map, with the host as the center, all objects in a sphere with a radius of 3 meters are invisible, primary system mall. Warm reminder, when you reach level 5, you can turn on the illustrated book function. At the upper right corner of the system panel, there was an icon of a shopping mall. Shen Yizi clicked on it and was immediately dazzled by the dazzling array of goods inside. Clothes, food, fruits, shoes, bags, weapons, all available at home and abroad. Seeing her made her happy. The desire to shop keeps rising, and I almost can't control how much I want to send. But she suppressed it for the time being, clicked into the drug category, and started searching in a targeted manner. She felt that this system mall must have plagiarized Dobeo in the original world. All the operations were exactly the same, and she felt no sense of violation when using it. The medicine for treating tuberculosis, I found it. It's called tuberculosis removal. It's really simple and crude, and no lazy guy gave it a name. In a distant different time and space, in a room with a strong sense of technology, a humanoid object is nestled on a large sky blue bed. He suddenly sneezed, a ball. Who is talking about me? He mumbled something, turned over and went back to sleep. Shen Yizi didn't know all this. She carefully read the various introductions to treating tuberculosis. The medicines were highly praised. If you take 1 pill, your cough will go away immediately. If you take 2 pills, your body will be healed again. It's not bad. After taking 3 pills, the body returns to normal state. Such an unseemly advertisement made her doubt the effectiveness of the medicine, and she even felt that the system mall was a bit shady. The system was questioned and insulted by the host, and a serious warning was given. If it occurs again, the mall will be frozen for 1 month. Oh my God, this system can actually spy on her thoughts. Shen Yizi didn't dare to think about it anymore, but she still felt uneasy and decided to buy another medicine to test it first. I happened to see a medicine for treating trauma, blood does not flow. Requires 888 wealth points. She clicks to buy, and after paying the bill, the items appear in the storage compartment. She took out a porcelain bottle as big as her palm, which contained a white powder. She took the scissors, reluctantly cut a small wound on her finger, and then sprinkled some powder on it. Result: the wound healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. In just a few seconds, no trace will be visible. Had it not been for the scissors lying nearby, she would have thought that she had not caused any wounds. The effect is immediate. It seems that the system is still very reliable. After buying blood stop, the wealth value is only 72, which is far from enough to buy pulmonary tuberculosis worth 10,000 wealth points. So Shenyazi continued to sell gold bars, and sold 10 gold bars to get enough money to buy a bottle of tuberculosis. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 639. Sigh, I thought she was going to get paid just now, but it turns out that these gold and silver jewelry are probably not enough to buy a few bottles of medicine, and the burden on her is still very heavy. Consumption was packaged in a white jade bottle. It was indeed an extremely expensive medicine worth 10,000 yuan, but the packaging was much more elegant. There were 30 light green pills about the size of soybeans in the jade bottle. She got closer and smelled them. There was a faint medicinal fragrance, which was not unpleasant. On the contrary, it made her mind clear. Now that the pills are available, how do you give them to Ms. Shen so that she can take them? The best way is to borrow the help of an expert. Shenyazi thought about it and had an idea. If she could find something similar to a puppet in the mall, she could control it and appear in front of Shen, pretending to be a master, and accept her as a disciple. Wouldn't it be logical to give you elixirs or something? Perfect. Shenyazi searched in the mall and found an item that met her requirements, a smart projection bracelet. Press the start button on the bracelet, and the bracelet will project a silhouette. This silhouette has rudimentary intelligence and can do what the owner asks it to do. Even though it is a projection, as long as you don't touch it, it looks the same as a real person. And the projected image can also be set according to the buyer's requirements. This baby is simply tailor-made for her. Of course, the price is also very impressive, requiring 99.99 wealth points. Shenyazi could only grit his teeth again and sold the remaining gold bars and added some jewelry. The bracelet is entirely silver blue and has a full sense of technology. It is inlaid with 3 silver gems. The middle one is the on/off button, the left is the character setting button, and the right is the information collection button. She pressed the start button, and a figure was projected out. She never expected that a smooth and beautiful man would appear. Her eyes are going to go blind. Shenyazi immediately went back and read the instruction manual, only to realize that this image of a handsome man was standard when leaving the factory. Buyers can adjust it according to their own wishes after purchase. She clicked on the settings button, and a light screen was projected in front of her. There were options for hairstyle, face shape, clothing, etc., just like setting up a character in a game. Shenyazi made a quick operation, and soon, the image of a Taoist master with white hair and a childish face, full of fairy spirit, appeared. She walked around him, very satisfied. "Master, please give me a name." The Taoist priest bowed to her. "Well, let me think about it. From now on you will be called Taoist He. You have no family or sect, and you practice alone in the mountains. Now your practice has reached the bottleneck period, so you go down to the mountains and join the world, ready to experience the worldly world and achieve the purpose of training your heart. I happened to pass by accident. Discovered that I have extraordinary talents and unique bones, so I wanted to accept me as my disciple. Yes. Also, from now on you don't call me master, just call me by my name. You have to act like a master in front of outsiders, do you understand?" Taoist He nodded slightly, showing his celestial spirit. "Yes, it is like that." Following that, She turned on the information collection button, allowing He Taoist to independently collect information about the world, making the character fuller and more perfect. After all, what she just made was just an initial setting, and more details needed to be filled in. Shen Yizi looked at the system panel again. Host, Shen Yizi. Level, 3, 73/10,000. Wealth, 73. Storage compartment, *3 clay pot, contains a craft paper map, some jewelry, a bottle to remove tuberculosis, a bottle to stop bleeding. Open functions, primary map, with the host as the center, all objects in a sphere with a radius of 3 meters are invisible, primary system mall. Item, smart projection bracelet. Warm reminder, when you reach level 5, you can turn on the illustrated book function. In just a few days, the information on the panel has become so rich. Each storage compartment can only store one item, which is too wasteful. Shen Yizi spent 3 wealth points to buy a large capacity storage cabinet, put the clay pot and 2 bottles of medicine in it, and closed the cabinet door. In this way, it only takes up one storage space. Shen Yizi touched the bracelet on his wrist and fell asleep with satisfaction. Asterisk. Add soy sauce, wine, rock sugar, star anise, fennel in sequence. Mr. Shen sat on a chair at the door of the kitchen, instructing Shen Xing in the kitchen to cook a dish, marinating large bones. After eating in the morning, Shen wrote a shopping list and gave it to Shen Xing, and asked him to go to the vegetable market to make a large purchase and prepare to cook a sumptuous feast for Suyu to eat. Their family has received so much favor from Sujaki Yu. Now that they have settled down and have the conditions, they naturally want to express their gratitude. In the large pot on the stove, the tender pork ribs were cut into large bones and tossed in the soup. Shen Xing added the ingredients one by one according to Shen's instructions. Shen Yizi sat at the stove and took on the task of lighting the fire. Although she is young, a child from a poor family has long been in charge of the house. She is also used to doing housework, and lighting the fire is no problem. Shen Yizi, who inherited the memory, naturally did it well. According to Shen Xing's requirements, sometimes it is a big fire, sometimes it is a small fire, and its fire control ability is excellent. Shen Xing covered the pot and let the big bones cook slowly. Wash the other pot clean and start making brine. Shen said he would do it. Heat the pot, pour a spoonful of oil into it, and wait for a while. Guessing that the time was almost up, Shen said, "Okay, it's time to add the rock sugar. Grab a small handful and put it in. Zhizi, just use low heat. Xiao Xing, stir-fry the rock sugar slowly until the syrup becomes sticky. It's ready when it bubbles and turns deep red." A sweet smell filled the air. Shen Yizi stood on tiptoes and took a look at the syrup in the pot. The color was very attractive and he couldn't help but lick his lips. Shen Xing pinched her face and said, "Little greedy cat. Dip some chopsticks in syrup and feed it to her." Shen Yizi narrowed his eyes because of the sweetness. Shen Xing's cooking talent is obviously very high. He has never made brine before, but now under Shen's step-by-step guidance, he can make it successfully. When all the preparations were done, Shen Xing took the old hen soup that had been simmering on the stove for a long time, poured it into the pot, then added onions, ginger, salt, spice packets, Shaoxing wine, etc., brought it to a boil, and then turned it to low. The fire simmered slowly. When the pot of brine is cooked until the aroma is overflowing, the pot of brine is ready. This is a slow job, there is no rush. Shen Xing wiped the sweat from his forehead and replaced Shen Yizi. "Zhizi, I'll do it." Shen Yizi shook his head, "No, little Xing, go sit and rest for a while." He must be tired after working for so long just now. And she was sitting down to light the fire, so she was not tired. Moreover, it was still early spring and the weather was relatively cold. Sitting in front of the stove to light the fire kept her whole body warm. She didn't want to leave the big stove at all. Shen Xing didn't force it. The aroma that overflowed from the pot was getting stronger and stronger. Shen Yizi couldn't stand the smell. Little Xing Xing, when will the meat be ready? Adorable baby, the miracle doctor is so awesome. Author, 955. Chapter 640. Mrs. Shen outside the house laughed and said, "You have to stay up for at least half an hour. Are you hungry? Xiao Xing, use that chicken soup to make a bowl of noodles for your sister, put an egg in it, and sprinkle some dried noodles on it, shrimp and green onions." Shen Yizi couldn't help but salivate just listening to Shen's description. Obviously I had a big bowl of porridge and big meat buns in the morning. But she is a child now and is growing, so it is normal to be hungry quickly, right? It's definitely not because she's greedy. When the marinade was finally ready, Shen Xing put the big bones in and stewing it. At this time, the firewood in the stove was almost burned, but he did not let Shen Yizi add more firewood. Just grab a handful of wood chips and throw them in to keep the fire going, and let it simmer slowly. In the evening, when Suyuyu came back from a medical visit, he smelled a tantalizing fragrance from a distance. After sniffing it carefully, he discovered that it was coming from the Shen family. After putting down the medicine box, he changed into a royal blue robe, hung up a lilac-colored purse that looked a little old, and adjusted his appearance in front of the mirror before visiting. Shen Yizi opened the door for him. "Uncle Su, my mother was asking me to invite you over." Suyaki Yu handed her a pack of pea yellow, and was overjoyed when he heard this. "Really? This is really rare." Shen Yizi circled around him, approached him, and said, "Uncle Su, you look very handsome today." "Ahem, is that right?" He subconsciously looked towards Mrs. Shen in the room. His heart skipped a beat when he touched her gentle gaze. Shen Yizi saw that the tips of his ears were actually red, and was secretly amused. Speaking of which, in ancient times, Uncle Su was already quite young, and some even became grandfathers. He is so innocent. Sigh, I really want to help. However, Shen Yizi still suppressed this impulse. As a child, it was better not to get involved blindly, so as not to make it self-defeating. Looking at my mother's appearance, she is even more grateful to Uncle Su. Moreover, my mother is still ill, and she deliberately avoids getting along with her and Xiao Xing, let alone accepting another person. The reason why she has never accepted Uncle Su is probably because she is afraid of causing trouble to him, right? But now that she has tuberculosis, I believe her illness will be relieved soon. Suyaki Yu led Shen Yizi inside and handed a packet of scented tea to Mrs. Shen. "This is the apricot and ginseng tea I made. Drinking it regularly helps clear away heat and detoxification, moisturizes the lungs and relieves coughs. Xiniang, please keep it." Shen took it and said, "Thank you very much. Between you and me, why do we need to say thank you?" Suyuyu felt it was inappropriate as soon as she said the words, but she couldn't help but have a little extravagant hope in her heart. However, seeing her pale complexion and unresponsive reaction, she was quickly disappointed. Shen Yizi couldn't help but sigh after looking at it. "I'm going to help little Xing Xing." Haunted his short legs and ran into the kitchen, leaving space for Shen and Suyuyu. "The rice is ready, Zizi, take this dish out." Chef Shen Xing handed her a plate of spinach and fried shrimps. Shen Yizi held the dish in both hands and crossed the threshold, which was a bit high for her now. Suyuyu hurriedly took a few steps forward to take it and praised her. "Zizi is really capable." Shen Yizi accepted it calmly. But the other dishes were beyond her ability, as they were too heavy. If she accidentally fell it, she would be heartbroken. After all, it's all meat. Steamed pork with rice flour, braised carp, steamed eggs with minced meat, large bones in marinade, mushroom and pigeon soup, plus a side of spinach and fried shrimps. 6 dishes were placed on a full table. Shen said, "Xiao Xing, put these big bones into a big bowl and send some to the neighbors on the left and right. You will have to deal with the neighbors frequently in the future, so now say hello to them. Good mother. Although Shen Xing has been used to poverty since childhood, under Shen's guidance, she has not developed a stingy temper. After hearing this, she quickly put a large bowl of bones and covered it with a clean handkerchief, carrying it and walking out. However, Shen Yizi had some meat pain. The braised pork cubes cooked with the secret recipe provided by Shen were so delicious that she even licked her fingers. In the end, she had not even eaten a few pieces before she had to give them away like this. Too much. Mom, I'm going to. Shen Yizi chased after her. She would not miss any opportunity to explore the terrain, maybe she would come across treasures buried underground. However, it didn't. Facing the big marinated bones brought to the door by Shen Xing, the neighbors were very warm and kind. After accepting the bones, they also gave some food in return. So Shen Xing did not come back empty-handed. The big bowl contained gifts from each family, either a piece of sausage or a small bowl of braised pork. Shen Xing sniffed the braised pork and began to talk about how to make it. It seemed that he wanted to show off his skills. That's right, Chef Shen has a talent for identifying flavors and ingredients. Just by smelling it, he can almost tell what ingredients are in the dish, and even the order in which they are put in cannot be hidden from his nose. As a foodie, Shen Yizi said that she will spare no effort to encourage and cultivate the talents of little stars, so that they can be carried forward and benefit everyone, she and the Shen family, and of course Dr. Su must be included. A meal is a feast for both the host and the guest. Shen Yizi was undoubtedly overstuffed. Although her belly had been stretched out, she still did not give up. Instead, she got up and walked around twice. After feeling that there was more room in her belly, she returned to the dinner table again. But Shen didn't let her eat any more. Zizi, I can't eat any more, be careful to accumulate food. Shen Yizi looked at the food on the table and felt heartbroken. She hadn't eaten enough yet. However, my stomach no longer allowed it. Looking at Shen Xing, who was still feasting, she felt resentful. It would be great if she also had such a big appetite. Mom, let me have another bowl of pigeon soup. The mushroom and pigeon soup tastes really amazing. The soup is clear and fresh, but not oily. The mushrooms in it absorb the essence of the pigeon. It is full of juice. It is obviously vegetarian, but it feels like eating meat. But it's not greasy at all, so she never gets tired of eating it. Shen couldn't bear her pleading, so she gave her a small bowl of soup. Shen Yizi held the bowl and drank with satisfaction. This taste is so amazing that I will never change it. After dinner, Suyuyu helped Shen Xing go into the kitchen to clean up and wash the dishes. Although Shen tried his best to stop it, he still didn't stop it. Shen Yizi leaned lazily in Shen's arms and let her rub her belly. Humbling in comfort. After finishing the work in the kitchen, Suyuyu was obviously reluctant to leave, so he had an idea. Zizi, do you want to listen to your uncle playing the flute? Shen Yizi immediately became interested. This Uncle Su is handsome, has a good family background, has excellent medical skills, and now he can actually play the flute. He is simply the standard for a national husband. Listen, listen. Suyaki looked at Shen inquiringly, then shall I go back and get the flute? How could Mrs. Shen have the heart to refuse her daughter? He had to nod.